Germany's strange wage gap case. Around 2023, there was a huge discussion on German national television about a court verdict related to the feminist wage gap myth. I remember being very surprised by the ruling. The case involved a female sales employee who discovered that a male colleague who was essentially doing the same job earned more money than she did. The employer argued that the pay difference was justified because the man had negotiated more aggressively when he was hired, while the woman had accepted the original offer without negotiating for a higher salary. However, the court ruled that this was not a sufficient justification for unequal pay between men and women performing the same work. In other words, the employer could not simply say, "Well, he negotiated better." The woman received back pay and compensation. Personally, I don't think this verdict makes much sense. I'm a gay man, and not the most traditionally masculine one. I mention this because according to research, gay men, on average, show brain wirings and behavioral patterns that are statistically closer to those of heterosexual women than heterosexual men. So basically, a lot of gay men walk around with feminized brains. Therefore, I am naturally also someone who is reluctant to negotiate aggressively. I probably would not have had the courage to push for a higher salary and would simply have accepted the standard offer. So if it turned out that my male coworker earned more because he negotiated better, I would see that as my own responsibility, because negotiation itself is a skill. That is why I have a problem with German feminists now describing this case as sexism. How exactly would it be sexism? In my example, if I had worked there, it would have been two men, and the other man still would have earned more because he had stronger negotiation skills. Since we would both be male, it obviously could not be explained by sexism. What I mean is that even in cases where one employee is female and the other is male, it does not automatically mean sexism is involved. A lack of negotiation skills can exist in both men and women. There was also a woman replying to a Caro Fragged Instagram video about this topic who said something interesting. Let me quote her. "Whenever I talk to my female friends about salary, it usually comes down to them not daring to ask for a raise. When I talk to my male colleagues, they simply ask without caring. I think that is a large part of the problem. We women often don't ask, but instead expect salaries to increase automatically. And I agree with her because you cannot blame men for something you chose not to do yourself. If I were too hesitant to negotiate for higher pay, that would also be my own responsibility. This is also why I personally struggle with the idea of calling countries like Germany a patriarchy. In an actual patriarchy, a court would never have sided with the woman, in this case Elle Mao, yet the court did rule in her favor. So can we really describe modern Germany as a patriarchy?